Hello, you little freaks. I know exactly why you are here. Because you wanna hear another story about the brutal, cruel case. Another murder story. And I'm gonna give you exactly that. We're gonna talk about Jack the Ripper himself, aka murderer from the Whitechapel. Infamous murderer who never been caught and been very active between 1888 and 1891. Only 3 years, but he had a lot on his plate. We definitely can connect 5 murders to his name, but there is another 6 which possibly could be his as well. Jack the Ripper victims were mainly ladies for the night, if you know what I mean, which were living in a poor area of East End London. All these murders had specific details that could be actually assigned to his name. Between April 3rd, 1888 and February 1891, there were 11 murders which could be possibly assigned to Jack the Ripper's name. But there is 5 specific murders which are called Canonical Five, which were definitely Jack the Ripper's murders. All of these 5 canonical murders had exactly the same sign of the murders. All of these 5 victims had their throat slashed and they've been cut open, if you know what I mean. Their organs were outside. Very often some of organs were missing. Females' organs were missing. Why would you need the female parts? So weird. The first out of 5 canonical victims was Mary Ann Nichols, who returned to her lodging house around 1:20 a.m. She'd been confronted with the landlord to pay her 4 pence for the bed for the night. When she said she didn't have 4 pence to pay, she was ordered to leave the premise. He actually kicked her out. While this all was happening, she said, "I will soon get my dog's money. See what a jolly bonnet I've got now." And the bonnet was this like a hat, old school hat for the ladies for the night. And then she left the lodging house with intention to earn some money for the bed, if you know what I mean, on the streets. So you know what I'm saying. And from this point, all we know is that at 3:40 a.m., the carman who was passing by seen something next to the stable gates at Baxrow's Whitechapel. Initially, he didn't know what is it, and he stopped to check. He just realized it's a body. The body of Mary Ann Nichols was laid back on her back, with her eyes wide open, her legs straight, with the skirt up. Her left hand was still touching the gate. Kind of, she was trying to pick herself up, I guess. And while Charles was discovering all this stuff, the next car just was passing by and stopped as well. They both start trying to figure out what the hell is going on in here. While they was examining, they find out that face of the woman was still warm, but the hands was already cold. For them was sign that yes, she's dead. It's definitely the body. And as 2 gentlemen, they just pulled the skirt down to cover up the female parts. And actually they've done what they're supposed to do after all, because they start looking for the policeman, which they found. They found policeman Jonas Misen at the corner of Harnbury Street and Baker's Row, which they came to and said, she looked to me to be either dead or drunk, but for my part, I believe she's dead. And then obviously they left the rest of the case for the police and they just went to work as a normal day. I guess that was a pretty normal while this 1880 times were in London. While policeman Misen was inspecting the body, he had lucky day because there was another policeman coming through from the opposite direction and Misen just shouted, "There's a woman with the cut throat." And obviously another policeman, John Tain, attended crime scene looking for any trace, blood trace or any wheel marks so they can at least know which direction the murderer ran off. But they couldn't find anything actually. All they had is a dead body of the woman. They ordered surgeon, Dr. Levelin, who arrived at Backroads around 4 a.m. He couldn't actually say much at that point. All he said is the woman had two cuts on her throat, her legs and hands suggests that the murder was occurred around 30 minutes before they found her. You know, the murderer is somewhere around, possibly even watching you, what you're doing now, which is scary as hell. But as I said, they couldn't do much, so they had to take the body to the mortuary for further examination. Due to the further examination of the body of a Mary Ann Nichols, Dr. Levelin discovered that both sides of her face was bruised either from the punch or from the hold of the thumb when he was cutting her throat. She had two marks on her throat, two cuts on her throat. One the length of 8 inches, it's just like long, and another one 4 inches. Her female part was stabbed twice. What? Why would you stab? Why would you stab the woman in her intimate place? Her abdomen was mutilated, which was cut open. Actually, basically, she had a lot of cuts all over her body, but he actually cut her open and done a lot of cuts. When I told you that all these victims had very specific detail that they connect all of them into one, even the surgeon said that all the cuts was very specific. Every single victim of these 5 canonicals actually been treated the same way. On the first victim, there were no organs missing, completely opposite to the next victims. It seems like it was the first victim, so he wasn't sure how far he can take it, I guess. It's so weird. The second of 5 canonical murders of Jack the Ripper was Annie Chapman, who also lived in the lodging house at 35 Dorset Street. And she was paying 8 pence for the double bed because sometimes over the weekend, Edward Stanley was staying with her. They were friends, I guess, and they was sharing bed a bit over the weekend. And he was giving her a bit of money to cover up his spot as well. So, win-win situation, I guess. Shortly after the midnight on 8th of September, Chapman was lacking some money to cover up her bed, to pay for her bed. It's become very common along these all victims. They all were a lady for the night. They didn't have money to cover up the bed. They went out to get some money. I guess it was so easy in that time just to get out, get some money, come back, pay for the bed. So around 1:35 a.m., Annie Chapman been seen in her lodging house, and obviously she couldn't pay for her bed, so she said, "I'm going out, it won't be long, please keep this double bed for me. I soon will have the money to pay for it." Unfortunately, that never happened because around 6 a.m. her mutilated body, was found by an elderly resident of 29 Hanbury Street named John Davis. Annie Chapman's body was laid next to the entrance, literally 6 inches away from the steps. And as soon as he realized it's a dead body on his front doorstep, he alerted 3 other men, James Green, James Kent, and Henry Holland. They all ran to find a policeman. I guess the policeman was walking around over the nights at that time in London all the time. But they was just simply was finding the policeman around the murders. Weird. And very soon they found a policeman. Actually, they found an inspector, Joseph Lunis Chandler, and told him another woman were murdered. And of course, Chandler followed the man to the crime scene. And very soon after that, he ordered a lot of policemen to come to the scene. Also, he requested the surgeon just to, find out what's happened to the body. And Dr. Phillips arrived at Hanbury Street at approximately 6:30 a.m., which is like 30 minutes later. So Dr. Philip straight away could say these 2 murders were connected because the way how they've been both killed, they both had 2 cuts on her throat. Both were from the left to the right. I'm not sure if that's indicating anything like someone is left-handed or right-handed, but maybe. And Annie Chapman's abdomen was also mutilated with the blade similar size to Marianne. So she kind of been killed exactly same way with the exactly same weapon. So Annie Chapman was killed the same way, but the visual aspects was more cruel. Her throat was cut from the left to the right twice, but organs were actually ripped and been taken out. Some of her organs were taken out and put upon her left shoulders, and some of her small intestines were taken out and put around her right shoulder. That's right shoulder. That's right, that's left. And the further examination revealed that her part of the bladder and her uterus was missing as well. Because all of these small details, that's why the Dr. Phillips definitely could say that these two murders had a very close connection. And that takes us to the third victim of Jack the Ripper, and this victim was unusual due to lack of ripping. Jack the Ripper didn't rip. So the next victim is Elizabeth Stride, known as Long Liz. Just wondering why Long Liz. Between 12:35 and 12:45 a.m., dock worker James Brown saw a woman who believed to be Stride standing with her back against the wall of the corner of Werner Street, but he couldn't be sure that was her, and very soon after, around 1 a.m., her body was found. Elizabeth Stride's body was found around 1 a.m. on Sunday, 30th of September 1888 in a Dutfield yard by Louis Demschutz. So Demschutz was driving on his cart with his horse, and he was passing by, but when his horse started acting weirdly, he seen a weird black object, and when he lighted the match, he realized that's the body. But before he done anything, he went home just to check on his wife, if his wife is okay. Kind of sweet, isn't it? But what is unusual about this victim is police wasn't actually sure if that was Jack the Ripper murder, because she wasn't open and her organs wasn't out, nothing was missing. She was actually killed, but she'd been killed just before the body was found. So police suggestion was probably Jack the Ripper was just about to do his work, let's say, but he was interrupted by Demschutz. I have no idea if I'm saying that correct. And he had to leave the body, but when he found the body, Demschutz found the body, blood was still flowing from the neck. So that was the sign that actually she'd been killed just couple seconds, maybe minutes before he found the body. What is also weird about this victim is around 12:45, the guy named Israel Schwartz apparently seen Strides being attacked by a man, but seems like he done nothing. 15 minutes later, they found the body. That's weird, man. Should he feel guilty? And only an hour later, Catherine Eddowes' body was found. 1:44 a.m. Literally 44 minutes later, another victim were killed 44 minutes later. I guess when Jack the Ripper tried to kill Elizabeth Stride and someone interrupted him, then he wasn't happy and he decided to, I still have to do it. I mean, he still killed Elizabeth Stride, Long Liz, but I guess it wasn't enough of a ceremony for him. So he decided to get another victim, and that was Catherine Eddowes. Unlikely to Elizabeth Stride, Catherine's body was kind of completely destroyed. From the post-mortem we can read that her face was completely smashed. So it seems like he put all his anger that someone interrupted him on the previous murder on Catherine Eddowes. From this murder we can say straight away that was Jack the Ripper who was killing all previous victims, because the body was treated exactly the same way. The body was open and all intestines was put over the left shoulder, and part of it was ripped out, like a different part, and put over the left shoulders. So we definitely can say that's the same murderer who was doing the another Canonical Five murders. Mary Jane Kelly was the last and the fifth, same time, the victim of Jack the Ripper from the Canonical Five murders. Unfortunately, this one was the most brutal murder. On the November 9th, 1888, Kelly's landlord, John McCarthy, ordered the ex-soldier Thomas Boyer to go and collect the money from Mary Jane Kelly because she was 6 weeks behind on the payment. So he went to the room and no one was there. He couldn't open the door because the door was locked. And what is interesting about this murder is the first time Jack the Ripper killed someone inside the room, not on the street. Something changed. It was weird. But because of that, let's go back to the story for now. Thomas Boyer couldn't break into the room, so he started looking through the windows, and unfortunately, he'd seen a dead body on the bed. But it wasn't a body; it was a torso because her. Let's go back to the story. And straight away, he obviously informed his landlord that was happened. There was a murder, and John McCarthy told him to go to the police station and inform policemen that there is another murder of Jack the Ripper. Around 1:30 p.m., police ordered breaking into the room because obviously there was a murder. So they get into and they found a body of Mary Jane Kelly, and it was completely destroyed. Her organs were completely emptied. So Jack the Ripper literally ripped everything out, but he didn't left the organs on the shoulders as he normally would do. He literally pulled them out and he threw them around the room. Uterus, kidney, and one breast been found under the Mary Jane Kelly's head. The other breast was found by the one of the feet. I don't want to even explain you exactly where was the part, but was very graphic. Plus, her face was literally smashed to the pieces that no one could even recognize her if they wouldn't know that she lived there, kind of thing, if that makes sense. It was the most cruel Jack the Ripper murder. Obviously, all the murders was cruel. All the Canonical Five was completely fucked up. But this one was the most brutal, I would say. Let's make our fifth victim of the Canonical Five murders of Jack the Ripper. After the fifth murder, the police literally start going crazy on the investigation because the murders was getting more brutal, more cruel, and kind of more often because obviously some bodies was found like an hour apart, 44 minutes apart from each other. Jack the Ripper was going crazy. He didn't want to stop at all. Police investigated around 2,000 people, interviewed 2,000 people. 300 out of 2,000 were investigated further. 80 people out of this 300 was detained. And there was even a bounty on his head of worth of 500 pounds, which I guess at that time was pretty a lot. All they knew about Jack the Ripper was he had kind of a surgical knowledge. So all they investigate all the butchers, the slaughterers, surgeons and physicians, literally everyone who could actually learn something about the body, about the inside, about all this stuff. It wasn't a good time to be surgeon at that time. I guess if you were a surgeon or butcher or something like that who was cutting meat or people in Whitechapel area, you didn't have fun at all. Such as all the victims from Jack the Ripper, unfortunately. And for now, that will be me. Hopefully, I tell you the good story about Jack the Ripper. Hopefully, we can see each other soon. Remember, stay safe, and I will see you very soon.